Hey everyone, welcome to my early access review of The Wandering Village, a city builder on the back of a massive wandering creature. Thanks to the devs who provided me with a review key that is always much appreciated. I've completed the game at least once, and I'm currently on my second playthrough. The game ends by building a massive monument, a testament to you and your villagers and the creature surviving the poison-infested world. Because that is what is going on, as the introduction tells me. The world has been infested with a corrupting poison which is destroying the planet, but also woke up this massive creature which is now on the run, trying to outsmart the impending apocalypse. You find yourself on its back with a small group of survivors and your journey starts. The Wandering Village plays on 3 different levels, each corresponding with its own view. If you press 4, you get into the village view, as I call it. You can see your village, your settlers working and walking around. You can construct new buildings here, and this is very much like most other city builders out there. You have to set up a working economy, you have to provide housing, you need to research new technology so you can advance your village, all that stuff. You've played this part of the game before in that sense. What makes this specific part of the game stand out from others is the unique art style, I feel. Each building and villager were handcrafted by the designers at Strafon Studio, and the architecture on display here is both tribal and refreshing. Each building has enough diversity to be recognizable, and the variety is there too. Some buildings do exactly what you would expect, like a farm or a forester, but others are much more eccentric and off the beaten path, like an Onbu doctor, which uses an air balloon to travel to the head of the wandering creature in order to give it medicine or an antidote against the poison. Which brings me to the second layer, available if you press 5. This is the Onbu view, if you will. Here you can control Onbu, at least after a while, because when you start out, you're basically an unwanted guest on the back of this massive creature called Onbu. He doesn't like you being there, he tries to shake you off, destroying your buildings, and with your ignorance when first playing the game, you might hurt Onbu, intentionally or not. You need to gain the trust of the dinosaur, which you do by taking care of it, using the doctor I talked about, or feed it using a catapult, which can only be constructed at the front side of its back. You shoot food to Onbu, which it gladly accepts, and by caring enough for the beast, Onbu starts to listen to your commands. This is very useful because of the final layer. The final layer, press 6, is the world map. Here you can see which route Onbu is taking. At first, he just does whatever he wants and you have no influence over it, but gain its trust and you do. You want to steer Onbu in a certain direction because you may want to avoid certain natural disasters or specific poison clouds. Or maybe you want to get close to resources you need, because once you've researched the scavenging hut, you can send out villagers to explore the world, and the closer Onbu is to the location you want to explore, the less time it takes and the more efficient you can be at scavenging. As it turns out, these expeditions are a vital component in the game, let me give you that piece of advice at least, because it's the only way to get research resources, called knowledge, which you need to unlock more tech. But also, since for some reason your villagers don't actually reproduce, maybe no one has told them about the flowers and the bees just yet, you need to have expeditions to remote settlements to pick up more villagers. This way you can expand your village because most buildings require workers in them, like the previously mentioned farm, so you need people. On the plus side, your villagers don't seem to age or die either, so unless you kill them by not having enough food or by not curing their poisons, your villager count remains the same. The world, and that layer for that fact, has quite a bit of influence on the other layers, connecting all the different layers in a rather elegant way. For example, you can traverse scorching hot deserts, which have an impact on certain crops. You also won't be able to generate water, and most farms won't produce food, unless you start to grow cacti, which you can harvest for water, and then you can use that water on tomatoes, for example, which in this game at least are heat resistant. You need to set up your economy based on the environment you're walking through. That is not all though, the scorching heat hurts Onbu, dropping his health, and with a doctor or some food you can heal Onbu back up, gaining his trust in the process. This intricate layer model isn't the most complicated system ever, but it is well designed, and I like how the layers interact and provide different scenarios in various situations. Another thing I appreciated very much is the wandering creature itself. Onbu grew on me like an old Tamagotchi used to do. It was just a few pixels back in the day, but caring for a virtual pet somehow filled me with joy. In this indie game, that sentiment is captured as well in prehistoric form. Onbu looks like a brontosaurus with a village on its back, and caring for Onbu is a full-time job, especially at first, because he doesn't trust you like I mentioned, and I can't blame him because I was pulling the spikes out of his back not knowing what I was doing. I never fed Onbu because I didn't have the technology yet. I never healed Onbu because I didn't have a doctor available. But over time the technology was researched and more interactions opened up using Onbu. I could care for the majestic animal and we developed a symbiotic relationship. Because Onbu, which is Japanese for the act of carrying on the back, also cared for me, my village and my villagers. As I'm taking better care of Onbu, I gain his trust, and with the commands I give him I can avoid nasty situations. I can state the course Onbu walks. I can make him run fast through poisonous swamps, limiting the impact of poison in my village, which can end your playthrough if you're not careful. The relation between you and Onbu is not just a design gimmick, but the essence of the game, and to some extent I cared more about Onbu than I did about my own villagers. I could always pick up a few more from a nearby settlement, no problem. But Onbu, he needs to stay alive, because with Onbu dead, either due to hunger or poison, it's game over. It's gracefully interwoven in the gameplay, and I can appreciate that because it feels very organic. I'm not sure, but I feel this whole Onbu idea was the idea from the very early stages of development, and Onbu has been a central pillar in the design process, resulting in several meticulously crafted gameplay systems spawning from this symbiotic relationship. Yet another aspect that caught my attention in a very positive manner was the soundtrack, which is simply amazing. It combines a bunch of tribal instruments like drums and flutes with a female choir and synth strings, and where a lesser composer would go overboard with this, here the perfect balance is found between all components, and it's poured in quite complicated multivocal arrangements that fit the game so well. I was impressed with this, and you'll definitely notice while playing. Certain events have special tracks too, like a poison event, so you know you gotta be on the lookout and protect your village as best you can. All in all, it's safe to say the foundation of the Wandering Village is rock solid, just like Onbu's back. It should not be too hard to implement additional features like buildings, villager interaction, Onbu options, technology and research. You know, the stuff you would expect from an early access city builder. It's not all amazing though. There's really just one part in particular that I want to make you aware of to avoid a bad purchase, and that one thing is replayability. I feel the Wandering Village in its current form, which is early access release at the moment of writing at least, doesn't have as much replayability as other city builders do, and there are a few reasons for that. First of all, the game is quite laid back and not very difficult in terms of economy and city management. As a result of that, it didn't take me too long to figure out a good setup for an economy, and the thing is, I feel that setup is going to work almost every time. If you combine that with the second reason, the fact that there really aren't a whole lot of procedural events available, I feel this means that your playthroughs won't be all that different. You can make it harder to get the settlement up and running, and I'm not claiming this game isn't challenging, because it can be, but especially out in the open world there ultimately isn't a lot of variety yet, and really not many random events. You can't customize your villagers either, they're all the same, as this isn't a colony sim but a city builder. My initial playthrough took me 6 hours, which is decent, and I was also still learning the game. I'm playing a second playthrough, which will probably take me quite a bit less time, let's say 4 hours. That gives you 10 hours, which I feel is reasonable given the price point, but I'm not sure how much further you can stretch the game time in its current early access launch state. And here it gets a little bit interesting if you ask me. I personally don't rate games, in particular indie games, on their game time. I'd much rather have an original and fun experience, condensed in less time, than playing a grindy game. But that is a personal thing. I don't have as much time as I used to, so I don't mind shorter games. And I have exposable income, so I don't mind paying for these games. I've started to compare games much more to movies, if you will, where you pay 15 euros for 2 hours of entertainment, expensive popcorn excluded. That mindset, however, isn't true for most people. I feel the Wandering Village is definitely early access, and as the Steam page suggests, a little bare bones, but I also feel it provides a very original, laid-back, unique experience that's a lot of fun. And I feel games should be about fun, and I enjoy original games. It's not just about runtime. Therefore, I view The Wandering Village more like an experience so far. A very pleasant experience, I might add. Something that you play through once or twice and then I've enjoyed the game and all the little interesting moments it provides. I'm enjoying the way it is designed, the interactions, just looking at the town and the villagers, the art style, the music. It's soothing and relaxing. I've had a blast with this version and there's much more on the horizon, but keep those expectations in check, I would say. Because ultimately, I think if you're looking for a game which has almost endless replayability, even in early access, like for example Clanfolk, this isn't the game. It might be, in time, but right now it simply lacks the complexity and randomness required for multiple playthroughs. Talking a bit on what's on the roadmap, since this is an early access title and that's what I tend to do with reviews, the thing is we just don't really know at the moment of writing. The early access page mentions the same things I did, just more of the same stuff really, stuff you would expect in a city builder that's in early access. I did read there will be a roadmap release at some point that has already been communicated. It's going to be in early access for at least a year, so there is plenty of time for all of that, and for now, The Wandering Village just needs to continue its journey further. I feel it's a successful start. If you set your expectations right, meaning that you're looking for a soothing city builder for 1 or 2 great playthroughs, and then you're fine with waiting for more content, then I would definitely recommend The Wandering Village. If you're more into something like Clanfolk or RimWorld or Farthest Frontier, to name a few contemporary early access games, I feel you should probably wait to see what ultimately becomes of this game in a year or so. I hope you enjoyed the video and I hope I explained why I enjoyed this game and under which circumstances I think you should get it. If you want more indie game reviews or stay up to date with the latest indie game news in my weekly roundup videos, please subscribe. Thanks for watching. Love you all. Bye bye.